Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving to today's first story, about the most pleasurable vengeance. OP took on his high school bully after he was hired at the same company OP worked for. Now story. I'm 29, married to a lovely woman F30, and have a baby at home. I work in accounting and have achieved quite a lot since graduating from college 6 years ago. I manage a small department of 8 other accountants and earn close to a 6-figure salary. I'm fit, strong, and athletic. I work out regularly. In high school, I was a skinny nerd. From 9th grade through 10th, I didn't have any girlfriends. In fact, I didn't get laid until I was in college. I had friends, but they were all nerds too. In 8th grade, I had a friend, Josh. Josh and I used to be best friends in middle school. We were into the same things, like Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 2, graphic novels, and tinkering with computers. In 9th grade, Josh completely changed. He suddenly wanted to be the cool kid and always kissed up the popular kids in school to try to join their groups. He succeeded for the most part. I didn't want to follow his example because I thought he was fake. In the middle of 9th grade, Josh hit his growth spurt and grew over 6 feet tall. I was impressed but otherwise uninterested. Because he was only in 9th grade but already really tall and well built, girls started noticing him, even ones in grades above ours, and he became a popular kid. I thought that was cool, good for him, but then he started picking on me in the quad for some reason. Like, he couldn't just leave me alone and be popular and live his life. It's like he sought me out to humiliate me. In the school quad at lunch, he and his popular friends would come up to me, and I'd usually be sitting with 1 or 2 other nerdy kids, and he'd say, "Look at this little." He used to always have a little crush on me in middle school. And of course, his friends would eat it up. I didn't mind if a bunch of dumb guy bullies made fun of me, but it especially stung because girls would laugh at me too, due to his treatment. I wrote for the school web newspaper and my picture was on the website. Josh and his friends right-click saved it and taped it to my locker with a fake thought bubble containing various homophobic material. I could deal with all that, the humiliation, the needless mockery, but by 10th grade, Josh began to bully me physically. He'd shove me into the wall if he were walking nearby. He was very popular by this time, always had a pretty girlfriend, always with a crew of other popular guys. I was always in more advanced classes than him, so I avoided him academically, but in 9th and 10th grade I had to take physical education. And just my luck. Josh was taking PE during the same period. He wasn't in my class, but 3 PE teachers shared the same field, and when the teachers let us do free activity, which they did every day for 30 minutes, Josh and his friends would shove me around again. One time in PE I tried to stand up to Josh and called him out for being a fake and a coward, always traveling with his crew. Josh didn't like this, so he challenged me to fight him one-on-one right then and there. I was only 14 and scared, much smaller than him. Someone behind me shoved me forward and I crashed into Josh. He shoved me back and punched me in the face. I didn't cry or anything that embarrassing, but I went down with a bleeding lip. The teacher broke it up and Josh got suspended for 2 days. When he came back, he'd always threatened to kill me. I asked my parents if I could switch schools. I always got really good grades, so my parents trusted me when I said I wasn't feeling challenged by my teachers. I eventually changed to a different and, as it turned out, better high school. I was still a nerd, but there were lots of nerds and I didn't get bullied anymore. Still didn't have girlfriends, but I was having a much better high school experience. Except for Josh and his friends found out about different gaming message boards I posted to, and joined up just to troll and make fun of me. This lasted for quite a while, with Josh always calling me the P word, various homophobic slurs, and always saying he would beat me up if he ever saw me on the street. Eventually, he got tired of it and left me alone. By 11th grade, the bullying stopped, except for one brief period in 2005 when he found me on MySpace through mutual acquaintances and verbally abused me on social media for a while. The way I'm writing it makes it seem unemotional, but at the time it was awful. But eventually, that too stopped and I didn't see Josh again. Until yesterday, when our company hired a new junior accountant, and who did it happen to be? Josh. And where was he assigned? Why, to my department, of course. When I met him, he didn't recognize me right away. I had grown a lot since 10th grade. In 12th grade, I finally hit my growth spurt and became tall, even taller than Josh, and I worked out a lot in college. I was always a nerd, even in college, but I was an athletic nerd and ran the sprints for the track team and played lacrosse. I didn't have any trouble with women in college and always had a girlfriend. I met my wife, who was a year ahead of me, in my junior year. We married after 6 months together and have been happy ever since. Josh looks for the most part the same but older and is balding slightly. He has a gut and is nowhere near as athletic as me. I knew him the second I saw him. My boss introduced me to him and let me say my full name to Josh. When I did so, Josh looked like he saw a ghost. He didn't say anything to indicate that he knew me. I only told him I would be his supervisor and your desk will be right there. I gave him a guidebook and told him to come to me with any questions. I told him there would be a department meeting Wednesday afternoon. I didn't do the whole "so tell me a little about yourself" bit that I do with all of the other new hires I supervise. Josh hasn't made real eye contact with me once since yesterday. Sometimes I'll be looking at him, remembering how much he hurt me when we were kids. He'll look up, meet my eyes, then quickly look back at his computer. Seeing him makes me feel flush with the pain I used to feel 15 years ago, and all the bullying and pain and hurt come flooding back. My head is hot and my heart is racing just typing this. I'm supposed to be typing a numbers report, but instead, I'm pretending to work while I am writing this story. I'm looking at him right now, and he's deliberately refusing to make eye contact with me because he knows I'm looking. I have zero doubt that I could beat the living shit out of this clown if he tried to bully me today. I could end his life if he tried to punk me again, and even if I took it easy on him, I would turn him into a quadriplegic. I am fighting so hard not to walk on over to him right this second and backhand slap him across his stupid face and dare him to do something about it. I just don't know what to do. I know that sooner or later, and probably tomorrow, I'm going to have to sit down close to this person, and I'm going to have to let him know that I know who he is. And he'll know what that means. He knows I remember all the crap he pulled, how badly he hurt me when we were kids. I just don't know what to do from there, though. I have to work with this guy. I don't want to be his friend, but I don't know if I should work to be his enemy, either. Now, here is the end of our first story. I hope you guys are enjoying my daily content. And, in my opinion, OP is befuddled by his emotions and prior recollections. Bullying memories want him to treat Josh the same way he treated OP. But I believe OP is not the type of person who would bully somebody or abuse his power. Also, success can be your vengeance, which OP did nicely, and Josh seemed to regret what he did to OP in high school. Guys, let me know what you would do if you were in the same situation. Would you seek vengeance or not? And please share your thoughts on this story in the comments section. I would love to read them. So before moving to the final story, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories. Now, moving to our final story about how OP's insane neighbor tried to sue them and then threatened to kill his dog, so OP went nuclear on him and made him lose everything. Now story. Around 8 years ago, my parents and sister had moved out of the log cabin that we built as a family for 6+ years. They live on a secluded lake and bought 10 acres for themselves, and to the north, another couple bought the 5-acre plot right next to us. We were the only two neighbors next to each other for 2 miles. At first, the couple was friendly and had no problems at all. After around 6 months of them living there and building their new home, my parents bought 144 acres to the north of them. This means that his property is sandwiched between our 2 properties, and since the only way we could get to our land is to cross his strip of land due to easement laws. He had no problem at first, but one day the trail we used to get to our land to the north has covered that trail with large logs, branches, yellow tape, and a no trespassing sign. My dad went to go ask what was going on. The owner, we'll call him John, came up to my dad and me and demanded that we give him a 20-yard wide and 400-yard long piece of our property to the north of him. He said wanted to cut down some of the trees to the north of him to make sure none of them fell on his house. So of course my dad said no, and that he wouldn't even sell this small portion of land that he requested to be given to him for free. This is where a 5-year shitstorm started. Before I mention all the batshit crazy things he had done to use over the years, I want to point out that he is a born fraud and took a settlement from the railroad company he worked for, due to a back injury that would leave him disabled for life. We found out that he sues everyone that gets in his way because his oldest daughter is a lawyer and works the system. Here is a small list of the shit he has pulled, mainly towards my parents. He had gotten away with everything for 5 years because his daughter tells him how to stay in the clear. Also, he was on his 5th marriage, so not the most likable guy. He slashed the tires of our two four-wheelers so we couldn't drive them to our land to the north on 2 occasions. He shot out or slashed the tires of our vehicles when we were gone or in the middle of the night. We put up some cameras, but were not clear enough to prove it was him. My golden retriever Bailey is outside most of the day, and John's dog is also named Bailey. The two dogs love to play together, but John did not like that. He said he would shoot my dog in the stomach if he ever went on his property again. After that, weeks later he would start to yell out Bailey to lure our dog onto his property. He grabbed my dog by the collar and put a pistol to his head and said he'd kill my dog if he ever came on his property again or played with his dog. We put up an underground electric fence so she wouldn't go over there anymore, even though John would always try to lure her into his yard. On several occasions he would golf balls into our windows and blame it on me since I was a golfer. Once again, everything he did, we could not prove it in court. When his house was being built, he went through 3 different contractors because John was threatening to sue every contractor for every little thing, and all 3 contractors left him. When he was getting his driveway poured, he offered to help the contractor, and once again he was pulling another scam. Where I live, if someone starts helping a contractor with work, there is a weird law that states that a contractor would need to pay John for the work he helped with. This went to court and he got his $10,000 driveway for free, plus took him for another $15,000 grand for some other bullshit. We too were in the process of finishing up my parents' house and he stole very specific wood from our place to use in his house. Juniper, diamond willow, thick pine for window bucks, a couple of $1,000s worth of wood. Once again, we did not have enough evidence for a search warrant. During Thanksgiving dinner several years ago, our house started on fire due to the stonemason cutting corners and using cheap, wrong parts for our fireplace. Firefighters from 5 cities were dispatched because we live in the country. Due to the number of fire trucks that were coming and going, John took his truck and parked it sideways on a strip of road that was tight so that the firefighters coming and going could not get through. He stated that we were ruining their Thanksgiving due to the commotion of our house burning down and fire truck sirens. The next fire truck that showed up used the force within its rights to plow his truck off the road. John tried to sue us and the fire department for the damage to his truck, but it never even made it to court because the fire department had the right to do so. What I listed above only scratched the surface. There is so much more shit he did to my family that my mom and sister wanted to move because they were afraid of what he might do next. This is where all of the pieces started to fall in place to take him down. The spring after our house burnt down, there was a storm and 2 trees from our property fell onto John's lawn. He called demanding that we remove the trees. We had no equipment at this time and told him we couldn't get to that immediately. So what John did was cut down a 20x 40-yard area of trees to drag the trees to our property to the north of him. In the letter, he set the pile of wood on fire and burnt down 20 plus more trees and 20 acres of prairie grass. One of the trees that burned down to the north was inhabited by a bald eagle. We could confirm the cutting down of 24 trees to drag the fallen trees that were in his yard, but couldn't prove the fire that was started to burn those sawed-up trees. When I saw that he had cut down a number of our trees on our property to the north of him, I took detailed photos of all the cut down trees and marked the type of tree and how thick the trunks were. Turns out that in my state there is a monetary value to those trees and he was screwed. However, when I was marking the trees he cut down, I realized I didn't know where the true property line was. A few weeks later I found the prints to where the property line was in. He built his house, 5000 SQ.FT garage, an underground propane tank a few feet onto our property. So now we found out why he wanted that land so bad before we would figure it out. Now during this time, John had put his house up for sale and put a $120,000 markup on what the actual market price was. We found out why he was doing this because he and a friend had gambled a lot of their savings on buying the property around a lake and they were selling no lots. He was bleeding money. We were finally able to put a lien on his house and that was his only lifeline to get cash to make their land payments. To make the rest of this story go by faster, I'll skip to the part where we ended up buying his house. We told him to put the price back down to market value. And then my father said that we could either settle the price of the trees out of court that he cut down of ours, and he agreed to settle that in the price of the house. My dad also identified the stolen wood and we could trace it back to the same unique wood in our house. We would sue him for that too, or he could drop the price for stealing our materials. Lastly, because John was such an asshole, my dad used the leverage of the lien we had on his house to drop the value even more. John was bleeding money, and was desperate for anything. So in the end, my parents bought his house for 28% of its market value. John's fourth wife would end up leaving him a year later. He filed for bankruptcy, lost his land development area since he was upside down on the payments, and now lives in a cheap studio apartment alone. Update: thank you all who gave security advice or insights into other things. Also, the buying of the house took place 2.5 years ago, so a lot of this happened way over 2.5 years ago. The reason there were no lawsuits towards the end is that the amount of money he lost on his house was way more money than if we were to file a lawsuit against him for the very few things we could prove. Currently, we no longer know where he lives, and never heard from him again after the house was sold. Now, that concludes our video for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Guys, let me know what's your opinion about this story, and you can also share your stories about the asshole neighbors in the comments section. So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.